Hey YouTube, welcome back to Tinkro Tools. Today we are going to be talking about 10 tools that I don't want to live without, so let's go ahead and get into that on Tinker with Tools. Now I've had this idea kicking around for quite some time, and it's gone through a couple of different iterations, but ultimately what I settled on is 10 tools that I don't want to live without. Now I want to be perfectly clear, these are not tools that I can't live without. There are certainly tools I'm going to show you today that could be replaced with less costly versions or different brands or simply other types of tools that do the same type of function. But this isn't what this is about. These are simply the tools I have grown to love, and I want to share that love of these tools with you. So with that being put forward, let's go ahead and get into my list of the 10 tools. Now first, and the least expensive one I'm going to feature today, is going to be this, and it's going to be barely visible on camera, so we'll get you a close-up. These are Uncle Bill's sliver grippers. They are just tiny little tweezers. They are very sharp and pointy on the end and excellent at gripping slivers. I do a bunch of woodworking, I do some DIY, and it seems like it's inevitable that you're going to get slivers. Over the years, I've used a variety of different things to get those out, and I have found nothing that works better than this. They come with a little clip on the end that you could attach to a keychain and carry them around with you always. They're about $13 for a set of 2 on Amazon. I'll go ahead and have a link down below, but these are truly the best thing I've ever found at getting slivers out. And so for that reason, they make the list. All right, the next tool up is going to be my Leatherman Free P4. That's the version I've picked, but really this is just going to be more about a good quality multi-tool. The reason why I like this Free P4 over, say, the Wave Plus that I used before is simply because everything is accessible from the outside and everything is accessible one-handed. Now the tool set is pretty complete. You don't get the bit driver like you get on other multi-tools from Leatherman, but I think it's got a good enough selection of tools that I'm able to get the majority of what I want done. And I think it definitely comes in handy when you don't know what you're going to be confronting on a daily basis. You just want to have a good amount of utility in a small and complete package, and I think that's what the Leatherman does. But this is just an incredibly valuable tool to have with you at all times. So for that reason, the tool I don't want to live without is my Leatherman. All right, next up is a tool that is fairly recent to me, and when I say recent, maybe in the last couple of years that I've started using it, and that is going to be the pliers wrench. Now I do have a smaller example from Knipex here. The most standard version is going to be a 10-inch version like this. This is going to be the 7 1/4. For a lot of the smaller tasks that I do find myself liking the smaller version, but if you're just going to have one, I'd probably say go with the 10-inch. Now this tool has almost entirely replaced the adjustable wrench for me, and I often find that I prefer using it over an adjustable wrench for very similar tasks, simply because the method of adjustment is super quick and easy, and once you get set for the size that you need and work on a boulder fastener in a very easy and predictable way, and I find that it actually kind of grips better, and you don't ever have it kind of loosening and making it difficult to get back on that nut. And so for that reason, I really do like the pliers wrench. I do think the Knipex are really nice. They work really well. They're one of the first ones that made these and kind of the gold standard in my opinion. But for budget-friendly option, I am going to include this new version from Klein. For half the money, it's a pretty good option in my opinion. So go ahead and check that out if you want. But just in general, pliers wrench, definitely a tool I don't want to live without. All right, next up is kind of a twofer as well. But what I'm going to be featuring here is going to be my Stabila tape measure and the Stabila laser distance measure. Now, for the tape measure, I typically go with a 16-foot. I will have the link down below the 26-foot version as well. What I love about this is this one in particular has both metric and imperial measurements on it. It has readings both on the top and bottom. The standout is not something you're going to be seeing from something like a Fatmax, but it is definitely enough to get the job done. But the thing that I absolutely love the most about it is going to be the clip on this. Unlike a lot of brands, this has almost got a little lever on top that allows you to just kind of raise it out and lift it over or set it on your pants pocket or your belt. And for that reason alone, this tape measure definitely makes it into my favorites list of things that I love, simply because of how nice it is to use. Now, along the lines of the Stabila laser distance measure, this one is going to be less specifically for the Stabila version. I've had in the past Bosch versions that I thought were pretty decent, and they were certainly a little bit less money. Overall, it is a little bit smaller, and I've found it to be a bit more accurate in terms of what I was measuring, and so for that reason, that's why it's making in there. I recently had to measure out the blinds for our entire house, and using this, I was able to quickly measure every window in about 15 total minutes just walking around the house. Everything that I measured came out perfect with this thing. And so for that reason alone, I think it is a great and awesome tool. Absolutely love it. Don't want to live without it. Next up is going to be our first true power tool, and it's a tool that I have talked about a lot, and even nearly 3 years later, I am still talking about this drill. This is the DeWalt DCD 800, otherwise known as their Compact XR drill. And this tool in general is probably my #1 power tool that I'd recommend for people. Everything about it is just something that I love. First and foremost, it is nice and compact. When you pair it with a 1.7 amp hour power stack, you still get enough pep that the drill operates and acts like it's on a much bigger battery, but it keeps the overall size just nice, super compact. This drill has power to go toe-to-toe with drills that are going to be bigger, up to a really reasonable point in my opinion. Next, the price point. Right now you can get a bare tool on Amazon for $125. It's usually right around that point. Or you can get it in one of 2 different kits. In my opinion, this drill is the pound for pound power tool champion or pound for pound drill champion. And for that reason, this is going to be something that until they replace it with something better, this is probably going to get my drill recommendation each and every year. All right, next up, we are going back to the cheaper side, if you will. And that's because we're going to be talking about the Pikadry Long Life pencil. This is definitely not the only brand that makes this style of pencil. And even though I've tried others, I keep coming back to the Pika. Now let me explain what I love about this one so much. Basically, this becomes the holster for it. So this stays clipped to my pocket at all times. And then this just is easy in and out whenever I need to use it. It keeps the lead from breaking on the end, but it also makes it easy to get in and out and not lose it. And so that is going to be reason #1 why I love it. Next up, it is essentially a mechanical pencil. So while you can get a carpenter pencil for dirt cheap, you can typically sharpen it with whatever knife you have. This is just going to be super easy to go ahead and sharpen anytime you need it. It stays nice and tough because it's a thicker style of lead, so you can use it for marking on a variety of different things, but you can get a fine enough point on it that when you need to mark something pretty fine, it also works for that. Now, they do make different versions of this in the Pika lineup. They have one that is more of a bigger carpenter pencil. They also have come out with a Pika Fine Dry that has a 0.9 lead and is kind of a more traditional pencil. I think that one even has an eraser on top. Love that one as well, but I keep going back to the old standard. This is a great gift if you need to give it to someone for Christmas. Absolutely love these pencils. I swear by them, definitely. All right, next up. I'm going to go ahead and say this is probably the most ridiculously priced and expensive item that we're going to be talking about today, but once again, it is the one that I absolutely love. This is the Makita Dust Blower. I've had different versions of this tool from other brands before. I used the Ryobi for over 2 years before I ultimately broke down and bought the Makita. This is the nicest. This is the one that I will use again and again. Now I have the XGT version, and specifically I have the XGT version that was imported from Japan, but they now sell both the LXT and the XGT here in the States. Now this by itself is just a really compact but really powerful dust blower. I used to use compressed air from my air compressor, but overall, this is powerful enough that I don't even miss that, and then I don't have to be running an air compressor all the time. Now, like I said, it is a little bit pricey. Right now, the LXT version is coming in around $150. The XGT is $175. I don't think there's a real tangible difference between them other than the battery that they run on. So buy the one that's going to be on the platform for you. But definitely, this is a tool that I've grown to love and would not want to live without. These are the Knipex Twin Grip Pliers. Now, this plier is definitely not as expensive as what you're getting from something like the Pliers Wrench at around $60. This one goes for about $30. On the surface, it's basically just an adjustable plier. I think it adjusts really well. It's nice and compact and overall just seems really well made. But when you look at the end here, and I'll get a close-up of this, you do have a little opening on the end, and specifically that is incredible for grabbing onto a stripped fastener, and that's why they call it the twin grip. You can either grab it and grip like a normal plier, or you can grab on the end of the plier. And more than once, I've had a strip fastener that this has actually been the thing to get it out. And while there are other versions of that style of plier, specifically Engineer has a plier that's even less expensive that does the same thing, the dual utility of having still a very functional set of pliers in addition to that makes the twin grips a no-brainer for me. And so for that reason, this is definitely a tool that I love and one that I would not want to go without. Down to our final tool, let's go ahead and do our last power tool. And this is one that I never thought would make a list like this, even when I went out and bought it. This is going to be the DeWalt gyroscopic screwdriver. It is an electric screwdriver, but when you pull the trigger, nothing actually starts spinning until you start to rotate your hand, and then the direction in which you rotate your hand is where it is going to spin. and how far you rotate your hand is how much it is going to spin. But of all the electric screwdrivers that I've used, it is definitely the one that is the most natural to me, and it's the one that I keep coming back to. So for that reason, this is now a tool that I don't want to live without, even though that surprises me still every day how much I love this tool. All right, the last one is going to be this from Crescent Wiss, or just Wiss. This is their titanium coated tradesman utility shears. Now I have an older version of these that I've updated the colors a little bit, so if you find them on a website, you might notice they're a little bit different design, but overall they're the exact same shear, just kind of an updated aesthetic, if you will. They're a spring-loaded utility shear. They will cut through some thicker, heavier duty stuff, in my opinion, a lot better than even like a utility knife or that, and a lot easier. Overall, they've been really good and durable. Now, I personally have owned 3 pairs of these, not because they keep breaking, but because I've had them in different areas of my house or in different tool bags. I did, however, recently find that Klein had a version on the shelves at Lowe's, and I was going to go ahead and recommend this as an alternative. Really, the only difference between this is the locking mechanism. The Wiss version kind of slides up into place to lock. This one is more of an ambidextrous model, in my opinion, because what you get is a slide switch that when it is pushed one way, it is going to be in the locked position. When it's pushed the other way, it's unlocked. But overall, the rest of the tool is almost identical. The problem is I cannot find these on Lowe's website. They're saying it's out of stock. They no longer carry the product. I can't find it on any other website so far. And overall, the Wiss version is cheaper. So I think this is a better ambidextrous option. If you can't find those, these are going to be more friendly for right-handed people, but they're absolutely incredible. I love them, and I will recommend them to anyone. All right, so there you have it. Those are the 10 tools that I love and would not want to live without. I want you to go ahead and let me know what tools you don't want to live out down below. Please leave those in the comments. I enjoy seeing what you're passionate about, and I love to know what other tools I need to check out. So leave them down in the comments. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and make sure to turn on notifications so you get notified when I put out new content. Until next time, though, I appreciate all their support, and I'll catch you next time on Tinker with Tools.